Hello, my name is Oren, and I'm going to be interviewing Arbel. It's going to be in English, and I must apologize ahead of it because I'm going to be a bit rusty. I haven't spoken the language on a daily basis for a long time, but let's try and do it. So we're going to talk about international law, and I must say that Ms. Arbel has referred me to the Foreign Affairs Committee in Britain, which basically had Natasha Hausdorff talking in front of them. And what struck me as an Israeli citizen is their pompous attitude towards Israel. Why the hell the Brits think they can interfere with our affairs in Gaza and the West Bank, or Judea and Samaria, as we'd like to call it? Yes, Noga? I'm sure you got a lot to say
I really
about
like
that.
the question. No, I have to say that I really like the question because I think, yes, more than anything else, the hypocrisy of the committee is the fact that it was held. I mean, Natasha Hausdorff is a renowned international lawyer. She's an expert on this particular field, and she made excellent points that basically had to do with the fact that international law, for some reason, is not applied properly in the Israeli case. And the committee kept asking her, why is it that she's the only one saying it? Why is it that throughout history, she's the only one saying it? And the real answer to that question is the same reason that you people are having this meeting. It's the same reason that there's a small scale in terms of international affair conflict in the region right now. And it seems like the entire world has an opinion about whether or not Israel may or may not do something. And that is the answer to the question.
Let's explain that point, because basically she's basing, her opinion is based on the Occupied US kind of international law. I hope I pronounced it correctly, it's Latin, that basically says that the borders of the British Mandate supposed to be the borders of Israel, because that's what's being applied all over the world in other areas and other countries. Once there was a mandate, the borders,
it's not just mandate. This is an 18th or 19th century international law that basically states that, and I'm not even going to say that in order to, but that the law basically states that when a regime is inherited, it also inherits the borders of its predecessors until otherwise decided. So it applied to mandates around the world, but the idea is that when the British mandate ceased, regardless of all of the politics behind it, the regime that inherited its borders was the State of Israel, because it is the only one that is recognized in the world today. It is the only one that was established, and that is, by the way, how you establish states, not by, UN decree, but by the fact that you could hold them. And everywhere else in the world, no matter what or how the country came to be, and all countries in the world, except for the ones in the Middle East, came to be through trial by fire. And in every case, the borders that were recognized were the ones that were recognized before that regime took hold.
And then she makes the question,
why is it that Israeli borders since 1948 have not been officially recognized? Now, Natasha Hausdorff says that you can have a discussion about what sort of arrangements we can come to with the made-up people that now argue that they also have a claim to the land. But the basic legal position is that Israel's borders stretch from the river to the sea. Those are Israel's legal borders. So Israel is not an occupier anywhere within those borders, because those are legal Israeli borders.
And there is another point there which is hidden behind that discussion, because they call the area the West Bank. And even she's using that term, and then switches it with Judea and Samaria. And as like some Israeli actor living or residing in LA said just a few weeks ago, Arabs came from Arabia and Jews came from Judea. So if you call it Judea, it's obviously Jewish. We are the people of the land.
We're the one who failed here, because we have been accepting that name. We've been accepting the West Bank, despite the fact that we have absolutely no interest in doing it, despite the fact that it's not a legal name. It's not recognized anywhere. There is no place anywhere in the world called the West Bank. You have to ask yourself, West Bank of what? The only reason that phrase has been used is in order to hide the Israeli and Jewish claim to the area. And the official name of the area is Judea and Samaria. And it's been that for literally thousands of years. So this is on us. We really should have made more of a point of calling it the right name rather than allowing people to keep on pushing back on our right to our ancestral homeland. You have to remember, Judea and Samaria are the origin of the ancient Jewish kingdoms. The first and eternal capital of the Jewish kingdoms is Jerusalem, and it's been that literally since the days of David, and it's been acknowledged in the Quran as such, and it's been acknowledged in Christian scripture as such. And we've allowed someone to once again change the name. We've allowed them to change it from Judea and Samaria to Palestine, and then we allowed them to change the name of the area to West Bank. And we really should be a little more careful about the words that we use from now on.
And I must proceed and say, the essence of that discussion there in that Foreign Affairs Committee is basically the use of international law and understanding the international law. And then we realized that they use it very politically in the world, in all kinds of institutions, just like the ICC, differently than they use it towards Israel. And that comes to be as well in Gaza, in what the IDF is doing in Gaza. There is a bit of discussion there about us having to feed the population of Gaza. There is a claim that Israel has always been an occupier of Gaza, even since it completely got out of Gaza in 2005, even taking the corpses and the bones of people who were buried there, and still they consider us, or try to consider us, or say it in the media, that we are occupiers, though they have a border with Egypt, which was sealed as well by the Egyptians. Yeah.
So, it just exposes the extent of the line.
And from that point, they're trying to claim that we have to give the humanitarian aids to the population of Gaza, that we have to take care of them, that we are not careful enough in the way we fight that war. And they actually analyze it to the point that she has to prove them that the ratio of citizens or uninvolved people getting killed by the IDF fighting in Gaza, the Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, is the lowest ever. And that's been said by Colonel Kemp, by General Spencer, Spencer, and other generals who've been with her on a trip to Gaza to see what's going on there.
Yeah, and you know what? I reject the notion that Israel should be held to a higher standard than anyone else, because, well, the law, before international law, the way that it works, if you want a rule of law, is that it's universally applied to all of the people who are subject to it. Otherwise, it isn't law. It is abuse of power. And international law was founded after, well, it started in the 1600s with Grotius, and we're not going back there. But the notion of international law or internationally agreed rules was that so no country can abuse it to the at the expense of others. And no one will agree to international rules if they're applied unevenly. And it seems that despite the fact that the crux of international law was signed and debated and accepted after the Second World War, also because of the Jewish Holocaust, it hasn't stopped anyone, literally since the inception of the Geneva Conventions, of abusing those laws against the Jews, basically trying to do the same thing that the Nazis did, only this time they have a better cover for it. So if you apply international law evenly to all cases, Israel's borders stretch from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. And those are the legal borders of a liberated indigenous people of this land. The Arabs who were left here from scores of Arab colonialist effects, and we're going back to the British taking their right, they're taking taking an interest in the area. They were left here by the British, who were known for trying to cause as much dissent amongst the people they were liberating because they wanted to be called back. They did the same thing with the India-Pakistan borders. And these people don't belong here. They belong in places that their names attest to the fact that they belong to, like Egypt and Iraq and Syria and Saudi Arabia. And let's not forget, British mandate actually extends not just to the state of Israel, but also to the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, which, if you're looking for colonialist power, you have to remember came here from Saudi Arabia. And since we already split what was promised to the Jews and gave 72% of to colonialists from Saudi Arabia, how about we make a deal that all Arabs who don't like the fact that it's Jewish between the river and the sea can go there and let that be their homeland? Because there's one country in the world where Jews are allowed to practice freely and Jews are allowed to self-determine as such, and that's here. And no other nation has a right to this area. Not by international law and not by anything else. And let's talk about Gaza now that we're talking about international law. Because the way that they're undermining Israel's right to exist is by arguing that it has some sort of completely made up duty to feed the people of Gaza, as you said in your statement earlier. And we don't. These are people who are literally trying to kill us. Hamas just made another statement that says there is no difference between Hamas and the population of Gaza. And there is no difference between Hamas and the population of Gaza. And the hostages who have been returned have been saying that. They were held by families, children who mocked them. There are no innocent people who are not a part of Hamas's campaign in Gaza. And if there are any, international law does allow them to leave. But as long as they're here, by international law standards, if they choose to be here, even though they were warned and asked to leave, we have absolutely no obligation to feed them, and we have absolutely no obligation to protect them. They have put themselves deliberately in harm's way. Not only that, they've attacked a sovereign nation state. And there's a price to pay for that.
We're going to take a little break here. I want you to keep on watching us at Tov News, because if you want to get real good information, which you're not getting in the mainstream media, this is the place. Look at the link beyond me and share your support. And we'll go on and talk to Noga for a very interesting conversation. So basically, right now, when the British Foreign Affairs Committee in the Parliament is investigating, or I don't know, asking or talking with Natasha Hausdorff, what is the purpose of that session? Are they supposed to recommend to the British government what to do about Israel? Because they're talking about, for example, the arms embargo as well, that Britain is applying towards the IDF. Not that we needed that much from them, but still, they're doing it. And it's, for me, it's Israeli, of course.
Did you know
for us, it's Israeli.
The other way around?
The other way around? Okay, that's interesting.
The other way around, yeah. The British actually need from Israel a lot more in terms of arms sales than we get from them. Begs the question, why is it that the Israeli government isn't, well, embargoing back? Because
I think there is a bit of a problem here, because when you're talking about arms embargo, sometimes it's going to be a very specific little part of the F-35 that only some factory in Great Britain is producing, exactly. And you can't get anywhere else unless you can redesign it or redo it here in our industry, which is not that bad, by the way.
I'm saying it's the other way around. I'm saying it's the other way around. What the British need from us, they actually really need from us, and it would be very, very difficult for them to get anywhere else. But what we get from them, we could probably make ourselves or get somewhere else. This
Hopefully,
isn't an actual embargo in terms that they're actually causing any damage. This is political grandstanding. And let's talk about why the British are politically grandstanding. Because the mess in the Middle East is British, French, and Italian made. And back in the San Remo Accords, if you ever look at the maps, you could actually says that they randomly drew lines in the sand saying this is now going to be Arab state number 1, and this is now going to be Arab state number 2, like thing 1 and thing 2 from Dr. Seuss's Cat in the Hat. Okay?
And basically, we're watching the results right now.
And the mess is so big and so deep and so tall, the British can't fix it. They can't fix it at all. But the thing is, we can. And the hubris and the audacity of the English that will ask, what is it that they should be doing now? Should there be a Palestinian state? No. We have enough Arab countries, all of which are complete failures, that have been erected solely for your imperialist, colonialist interest 100 years ago. And it doesn't work because nation states are not founded because the English drew a little line on a map. It takes a lot more than that to create a nation state, which is why there's only one functioning one in the Middle East, 3 who are still enjoying the glory of their past, Turkey, Egypt, and Iran, who are all flailing, and nothing else. Lebanon is not an actual country. Syria is not an actual country. There are no peoples who actually care about those countries. It's a made-up construct that the British and French left in the wake of their imperialist endeavors, and the audacity that they have to now argue against the only indigenous people. They should somehow dictate to us how we live their lives. We live our lives. If you have a problem with the way that the Arabs are being treated here, you're more than welcome to them. But Israel has absolutely no obligation to sit and take it while hordes of terrorists swoop in and murder children in their beds. We have no moral or international law obligation to allow this to continue, and there will never ever be, and really the hubris of the British, that we are actually asking for their opinion about whether or not there will never be a Palestinian state. It is a made-up construct. There never has been, there never will be. Palestine is a Roman name. It has nothing to do with the Arab hordes that are trying to kill Jews in the Jewish homeland. And the fact that the British in 120 years have not managed to figure that out says bad things about their ability to identify truth and reality when they see it.
I think that's going to be a great point to end this conversation with. It was mostly interesting, and I hope to see you again next time. Noga Arbel, I was Tal Ornan. Thank you very much.